What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I'm taking a look at the sneaker releases in the second half of November 2019 and I let you know which ones of these shoes I think are going to sit on shelves and which ones I think are going to sell out. November so far has been a pretty crazy month and I think it's only going to continue throughout the rest of the month and through Black Friday. If you're not familiar with my Sit or Sell series, basically what I do is I take a look at the sneaker releases in the first half and the second half of each month, so make sure to subscribe if you want to stay tuned for more videos just like this, and I let you guys know my thoughts on every sneaker that's dropping or every sneaker that I think is worth talking about and whether I think each one of those shoes are going to sell out or just sit on shelves. As always, I feel like it's important to say that you should never feel pressured into buying a pair of sneakers, whether that's from your friends or some random dude on the internet. Only buy a shoe because you like it and not because you feel like you need to. At the end of the day, shoes are just a hobby. They're nothing more than that, so make sure to keep that in mind when you're spending thousands of dollars on sneakers, like I have. But without further ado, let's jump right into the second half of the month. So starting things off on Saturday, November 16th, I'm only going to go over some of the more important releases because this video is dropping on the 16th, so you already know it's dropping. The shoe that everyone is probably going to be going for today is the Travis Scott Air Force 1 Low. This shoe is sort of a departure from some of the previous Travis Scott releases because it's a much more eclectic and much more crazy looking shoe. Most of his previous drops were one color or subtle variations of a colorway. This shoe is almost like a mashup of 5 different colorways, and it even features a zip-up sort of overlay on top of the laces, which I think is an interesting detail. Colorway wise, I think it's awesome. I love the fall sort of earthy tones, and I think because they use those colors in particular, it should be a lot easier to wear than if they used bright blues and bright reds. Obviously, this sneaker will be difficult to get because it's a Travis Scott collaboration and it's coming out in very limited quantities, so I think it goes without saying, but this shoe will definitely sell. The other sort of big release that was supposed to happen today was the Adidas Yeezy Boost 380. I actually grabbed a pair for myself and did a review on it, so if you guys want to check that out, there will be a link at the top of the screen. But unfortunately, it looks like this release has been pushed back. No one knows the exact date of when this shoe is going to release, but based on the fact that you can buy pairs on GOAT and StockX, and they are legitimate pairs because they get authenticated, that means that there are probably pairs in stores and in warehouses, so I bet you the release will be sooner than later. I wouldn't be surprised if the 380 shock dropped before the end of the month, or at least got a release date before the end of the month, so make sure to keep an eye out for info on these sneakers if you really want a pair, because they probably will not be easy to get, and of course because they are a brand new Yeezy silhouette, they definitely will sell out. Moving on to November 18th, we've got 2 colorways of the Nike Joyride Run 2 POD. Joyride is Nike's latest cushioning technology that features a bunch of tiny little rubbery plastic beads inside the midsole of the sneaker that apparently makes these shoes better for recovery runs. Honestly, Joyride looks like Dippin' Dots, and I don't think it looks that great, but to be fair, Boost looks like styrofoam, so it's not the weirdest looking cushioning in the world. The shoe is coming out in a black and a white colorway, and what I think is interesting about this release is that they're already releasing a version 2 of the Joyride, which seems really soon after the first release. Maybe I'm missing something, but it might be a marketing ploy to try and get people to buy into this new version of the shoe because they didn't like the first version that much. I'm personally not planning to grab this shoe. I wasn't really a fan of Joyride initially, so I don't see how this is any different. But if you like Joyride cushioning or you haven't tried it yet and you want to try it, this might not be a bad way to go. With that being said, I think a lot of people are kind of over it, so for that reason, I'm giving this shoe a sit. Moving on to November 21st, we've got the Star Wars Adidas Ultra Boost SL X-Wing Starfighter. I've said this in a lot of videos and I'll say it again. I love Star Wars. I grew up in the 90s watching Star Wars. I went to the midnight showing of Star Wars Episode 1, and when I was a kid, it was a great movie. Now that I've watched it again as an almost 30-year-old, it's not as great as I remember it. And unfortunately, I feel like this X-Wing Ultra Boost, and to be honest, the entire Adidas Star Wars collection is kind of like Episode 1. A great idea in theory, and then when it comes out, it's kind of a joke. I guess I shouldn't bash the entire collection. It's not a terrible collection. It just feels like a lot of these shoes are way too literal. Like this X-Wing Ultra Boost has an actual picture of an X-Wing printed on the Boost midsole. It's weird. I don't understand why you wouldn't make the shoe just an X-Wing colorway and maybe throw a Star Wars logo on there somewhere. Kind of like what they did with the Game of Thrones collection, which actually came out pretty nicely. I'm not a fan of this sneaker at all, and I love the Ultra Boost, and from what I've seen online, not many people like this shoe, even though a lot of people are Star Wars fans. So for that reason, I'm giving this shoe a sit. I'm still coming off a cold and my throat is killing me, but we're gonna get through this. It's my job, I have to get through this. Then following that up, we've got another Star Wars Adidas collaboration on the Alpha Edge 4D in the Death Star colorway. Now I've just gotta say one thing. This is not a Death Star colorway. This is like a space colorway. The Death Star is gray. I don't know what this is, but this is not gray. Weirdly enough, the Star Wars Alpha Edge 4D goes from completely literal, like the X-Wing Ultra Boost, to completely abstract with the Death Star 4D. I don't understand how it's Death Star other than that stupid little print from like the side of a Death Star panel or whatever. It just doesn't make sense. I love 4D, I love 3D printing. I think the technology behind this sneaker is great. I think the way that the sneaker feels on foot is all right. This collab though is just really weak. I don't understand. This shoe is a sit. This shoe is definitely a sit. Then moving on to November 22nd, we've got the Soland Nike Blazer Mid in snakeskin. Soland is a Scandinavian brand who's collaborating on this Nike Blazer Mid with a pretty interesting snakeskin twist. I'm not usually a huge fan of snakeskin, but there's something about this snakeskin look on this blazer with the chenille Nike swoosh on the heel that really kind of does it for me. I'm really into this shoe. I honestly don't know much about Soland. This is the first time I've heard of them, and so I'm sure there's a lot of Soland fans out there who are probably like, you suck, you shouldn't be allowed to buy this shoe because you don't know what this brand is. And whatever, I get it. But that's not gonna stop me. If I can buy this shoe, I'm going to, because I think it's dope and I'm really excited to try it out. Based on the reception that I've seen online, I think this shoe is probably going to be a pretty popular sneaker, so I think it might sell out. And then rounding off November 22nd, we've got another sneaker from the Fearless collection, the Air Jordan 1 Mid Facetasm. Same sort of situation for me as Soland. I'm not totally familiar with Facetasm. I know it's a Japanese brand, but that's about the extent of my knowledge of them. I do actually really like the look of this sneaker. I like that sort of steel blue paired with that white and black on the upper. The one sort of weird detail for me is that tiny little red Jumpman printed on the heel of the midsole. I'm not sure exactly why they decided to do that. Maybe they're just trying to be different, and in that way, I don't like it that much because I think that's a dumb reason to do something. If there actually is a good reason for that design decision, great. That said, the sneaker as a whole is pretty solid, and it's definitely something I'm going to be trying to go for. I've actually tried to go for all the other Fearless sneakers, missed out on every single one of them, but you know, third time's the charm. And just like most of the other Air Jordan 1 mids in the Fearless collection, I think this sneaker is going to sell out. Then continuing on to November 23rd, we've got the Adidas NMD V2 in core black. I always thought the NMD R2 was the second iteration of the NMD, but apparently they're trying to pretend like that never happened and create the V2, which should never happen. The NMD was special because of Boost, the fact that it was limited, and because of its somewhat unique look. The NMD V2 is like a 36-year-old trying to relive their high school years. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't look good. The V2 is obviously heavily inspired by the OG colorway of the R1 because you've got red and blue, but rather than being on those sort of bricks that you usually have on the NMDs, it's on the Boost midsole itself. Doesn't look great. They should have just stuck with the red and blue bricks. I don't know why they had to switch things up and make the Boost red and blue. It just doesn't make sense. They should have left the NMD alone, or better yet, vault it, give it a couple years, and bring it back. This wasn't the move. That said, I definitely do not think this shoe is gonna sell. After that, we've got the Adidas Dawn Issue 1 in the Mailman colorway, which is essentially just purple and white. This sneaker is fine. I think the shoe overall is a great budget basketball sneaker, and if you're looking for a great performance shoe that's not going to break the bank, this is a great way to go. However, colorway-wise, it's not that exciting. I do like purple, especially since I'm a Ravens fan, but the shoe itself doesn't really feel like anything that I have to have, and I think that's the case for a lot of other people, so for that reason, I'm going to give the shoe a sit. After that, we've got the Peace -1 Air Force 1 Low. So apparently Peace -1 is the brand of famous K-pop star G-Dragon. Apparently he's being released from the army and this shoe is releasing to honor that. Apologies if I didn't get any of that right. I'm not exactly sure if that's the real story or what the story totally is. I'm not familiar with this at all. But with that being said, the sneaker does look pretty good. It's got G-Dragon's logo, which is a flower on the tongue, which I think looks awesome, especially since it's embroidered. It's also got these paint marks along the midsole, which give it a very unique and designer look. But other than that, it's sort of a black and white Air Force 1 Low. However, because this is a collaboration with Peace -1, I'm sure this shoe will be very limited, and I'm sure there are a lot of K-pop fans who really love this sneaker because of who it's tied to. So because of that, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this sneaker sold out immediately. After that, we've got the highly anticipated release of the What The Air Jordan 4. I've always loved the What The Nike sneakers. I love the What The KD6s. I love the What The Nike Dunks. I love some of the What The LeBrons. But this shoe kind of feels like a cop-out. The thing that I think a lot of people love about the What The sneakers is how crazy and how out there they are. The What The 4s, while having elements from a couple different colorways, aren't that exciting. They're kind of just a white Air Jordan 4 with some blue, gray, and red accents. My question is, why didn't they make one side black and one side white, or one half of the shoe black and one half white? Why didn't they change it up more than just giving the sort of details around the shoe a slight variation in color? That just seems kind of boring. That said, overall, the sneaker doesn't look bad, and apparently the material quality is excellent. But I feel like for a what the sneaker, this could have been a lot more interesting. I don't know why they didn't even incorporate any of the Dornbecker accents, come to think of it. Like, that would have been sick, to have a what the shoe with some Dornbecker 4 details in it, like that Superman tag or something like that. It just would have made the shoe so much cooler. I understand that they're probably going for mass appeal and they're trying to create a sneaker that everyone can wear with pretty much anything, but it just kind of takes away from the what the theme. It isn't the same. I do, however, think that it will be somewhat limited, so it won't be impossible to get, but it won't be the easiest shoe in the world. Maybe I'm wrong. I have seen a lot of people get this shoe early, which usually indicates that the sneaker won't be that hard to get, so it's possible that it could be a GR, but based on the fact that it is a what the sneaker, I would hope and I would think that it is going to be more limited. So because of its likely more limited nature and the fact that it is an Air Jordan 4, I do see this sneaker selling out. And then rounding off November 23rd, we've got the Adidas Yeezy 500 Stone. From a distance, this Yeezy 500 does look like every other Yeezy 500 because of its colorway. It's a light tan, it's like a sand colored shoe. However, when you actually zoom in on the sneaker, you'll realize that some of the mesh areas are actually made up of neoprene, so it has sort of a pillow-like look. If you've got a chance to check out my review of the Yeezy 500 Slate, which is essentially just a high-top Yeezy 500, which actually looks pretty good, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about because that shoe has some very similar material choices to this shoe. Other than that material change, it is just kind of a Yeezy 500, so if you don't have any pairs of Yeezy 500s, or maybe you're a Yeezy 500 collector, or maybe you just love this neoprene change, this is definitely a shoe to go for. I'm personally not going to go for this pair because I already have 3 pairs of Yeezy 500s, which is 3 more pairs than I ever thought that I would have. But with that said, it is still a Yeezy. It is a new version of the 500, so for that reason, I think the shoe is going to sell. Then on November 27th, we've got a bunch of different sneakers from Nike's brand new Time Capsule collection. The collection of sneakers includes the Air Force 1 Low, the Air Max 270 React, the Air Flight 89, the Air Max 1, and the Air Max Plus. Most of these sneakers feature an oversized Nike logo, both the swoosh and the actual text, printed on the midfoot of the shoe in order to pay homage to sort of their growth as a brand, and also as kind of a throwback to their old script logo. And I think it looks interesting. It's just not something that I would wear. I definitely think that there are stronger silhouettes in this collection than others, and I think the colorway itself, this sort of black, navy, pink, and white colorway, isn't bad, but it's just not a collection that I feel like I need any of the sneakers from. This collection is fine, and I feel like there are some people out there who would be really interested in it, but I do feel like it looks a lot like some of the other collections that they dropped earlier this year, and I just think people are kind of over it. So for that reason, I'm giving this collection a sit. And then rounding off the 27th, we've got a Nike Air Foamposite 1 with the black and white graphic print. If you like Foamposites and you like kind of abstract graphic prints that don't make any sense, you're in luck. This is a sneaker for you. I don't really have anything to say about this sneaker. This sneaker might have sold like 12 years ago. Not now. Then on November 29th, we've got the Slam Jam Nike Blazer Mid Class of 1977. This is the second Slam Jam Nike Blazer collaboration, and just like the first version of this shoe, this sneaker features an upside down Nike swoosh. The sneaker comes in a strictly black and white colorway, and the shoe uses extremely premium materials. I really love the way this sneaker looks. I think the upside down Nike swoosh really changes the entire look of the shoe without being that drastic of a change. I also love the fact that they're using more premium materials because the entire sneaker sort of gets elevated to a more designer-like level. Even the simple black and white colorway looks really great on the Blazer, and I'm glad that the Blazer is finally getting some sort of resurgence this year, probably because of the off-white Blazers, but I think it's an awesome sneaker and a great collab overall. But unfortunately, like the previous collab, it's probably going to be extremely limited and only sold through certain retailers. Because of that, the shoe will be very difficult to get and almost certainly will sell out. Also releasing on the 29th is the Air Jordan 1 Hi Bloodlines. Originally thought to be a new version of the Bred 1s because of the colorway that was leaked a couple months back, this shoe has been kind of a disappointment for a lot of people. For me personally, I think the bloodlines or the red lines that outline the different panels of the shoe really make this sneaker look cheaper than it should. I feel like if they just gave us a black and white Air Jordan 1 on Black Friday, that would have been dope. This one just doesn't do it for me. It's kind of a letdown, especially when for a couple months you were thinking that the Bred 1s were going to re-release and they didn't. Instead, you got a black Jordan 1 with some red outlines. Regardless, this shoe is still an Air Jordan 1 High and they're incredibly popular right now, so for that reason, I think this shoe will still probably sell out. And then rounding off the 29th, we've got the restock of the Adidas Yeezy Boost 350 V2 in the black colorway. Even though the shoe feels like it just released a couple months ago, which it did, it is restocking in full family sizing, which is actually great because it should drop the resale prices a little bit. In my opinion, I think this is one of the best 350 V2s to ever drop because it's a simple colorway, it's a very wearable colorway, and I mean, it's a black shoe. What else can you ask for? I'm not sure how big of a restock this will be, if they're just releasing extra pairs or if they actually did do a whole new production run of the shoe and they've got a ton more pairs. I have no idea, but it is still a Yeezy and it is still one of the more popular 350 V2s. So for that reason, it is still probably going to sell out. And then finally moving on to November 30th, we've got the Undercover Nike Air Max 720 in both black and in red. The Air Max 720 is one of those shoes that did really well in the beginning and then sort of petered off when everyone realized it wasn't that comfortable. This Undercover collaboration though could change things, and I think a lot of people will be excited for this sneaker. As I mentioned, the shoe comes in both a black and a red colorway, and both shoes feature splatter print along the sides. My personal favorite of the two is the black colorway, and I feel like it's a little bit more wearable, but the red colorway isn't bad, it's just not something that I feel like I need. Undercover collaborations usually do pretty well, so I wouldn't be surprised if both of these sold out, but if only one of the colorways sold out, I think it would be the black colorway. And then finally, rounding off the video, we've got the Fearless Air Jordan 1 Mid Maison Chateau Rouge. I think that this Paris-based brand created by far my favorite Fearless Air Jordan 1 Mid. It's an awesome looking sneaker and it comes in all the colors that I like to wear. The shoe features a very earth-toned upper with some tans, some browns, some light blues, and some light yellows, and I think it's an awesome looking sneaker. A lot of the panels in the upper have some very interesting pressed textures, which I'm not sure exactly what they symbolize, but I think it gives the shoe a very unique and good look. I also love some of the stitching details around the shoe, like at the top of the tongue and on the side of the midfoot. It's an awesome shoe, and I'm really excited to learn more about it when we get closer to launch, and it's definitely a sneaker that I'm gonna try and pick up. And like I said before, like every other Fearless Air Jordan 1 Mid in the collection, I definitely think this shoe is gonna sell out. But that pretty much wraps up the sit or sell list for today. Now I would love to know your thoughts on these shoes and which ones of these sneakers that you're interested in, or if you're just not interested in any of them at all. So let me know in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.